So up next,
we have our last speaker of the day, SHALINI SARASWATI, a Blade Runner and motivational speaker. SHALINI, we're honored to have you here with us today. Let's please give her a round of applause and welcome her on stage.
Very much. My name is Shalini Saraswati, and I'll kind of take you all through a bit more of the gruesome details that the video did miss. And I'll try and cover some of the things that have really impacted my life, right? So back in 2012 was when life kind of changed. I was able-bodied, like pretty much a lot of you. And I was at a place in my life where I thought everything was going very well. Like I was doing very well at work. We were pregnant, we were getting our promotions. I was just kind of ticking every single box in my life that defined what success looked like. And I then came down with a fever. And we initially thought I was also pregnant at that point in time, so we put it down to just pregnancy. I progressively got worse. We went into the hospital, and we thought it was either dengue or malaria. And that is my last memory, because I went into a coma over the next 10 days. My heart stopped beating twice, my lung was filled with water, and I was given a 3% chance of survival. I was on a life support system. So what had happened was that on a trip to Cambodia, I picked up a very rare bacteria. It's called rickettsia with moths. And I just want to put my disclaimer out there that I single-handedly seem to destroy Cambodia's tourism. It's an absolutely beautiful place. I just happen to be unlucky, so please go out if you really need to go there. So the virus kind of created a havoc, and when I did wake up, all my limb extremities had turned a dark blue-black. Basically, it's thrombosis, where the blood vessels, are all clotted and there's no blood flow at all. We went home because we thought there was going to be a miracle out there, like who goes into a hospital with fever and comes out with having to lose all their limbs. I started to work. Long before COVID happened, I'd figured out what work from home was like, and I used to take my calls on it. Now, the best way to describe my limbs at this point in time is dried wood, and with constantly cracking on wood, I managed to fracture my first hand, and I had to amputate in March of 2013. The rest of this fell off in August of 2013. Having lost both hands, we were wanting to actually just save a hand because we just felt that was a lot more difficult to replace. And then in September 2013, I went ahead to amputate both my legs. I painted my toes a bright purple the previous day of my surgery because I decided if my legs were going to go, they were going to go out in style. And having been dark-skinned all your life, you're told you can't wear particular colors, so I wanted to make sure I ticked that box as well. And with that, I went with the journey of becoming a quadruple amputee, and I started my journey with prosthetics. Once I wore my prosthetics, I figured that I couldn't walk, I couldn't sit in a chair and get off a chair without help. I couldn't do a lot of things in my life, and I just wanted to get fit. Actually, honestly, I was just very vain and I wanted to look nice because I just put on a lot of weight. And I met my coach, and he said, listen, I've never worked with anybody like you, but come along and we'll see what we can do. So for the first 1 year, I pretty much just walked. I discovered eventually that I could run. And then coach came up with the idea that I should run 10 kilometers. I honestly thought the man had lost his marbles because I never ran when I was able-bodied. Why would I do it having lost all my limbs, right? And I played along because I thought there was going to be at some point where he's going to figure out that this is a bad idea, right? But unfortunately or fortunately, I figured that I could do the 10 kilometers. And I hated it, but I loved how I felt. And that's how I ran my first TCS in 2016 in an abysmal 2 hours. And then I went back because I felt I could do a lot more better than that. And I ran the next year in an hour and 35. And then, I became like the Blade Runner. I today run, I'm a professional athlete. I mean, kind of the wrong time in the life to do a lot of things. I'm 44, not the smartest idea in the room to kind of become an athlete at this age, but, hey, I just have crazy ideas, I think. Today, I've won the nationals a couple of times. I ran at the Asian Games this year, and hopefully I can do the Olympics as well this year. I'll quickly kind of go through some of my learnings, or maybe just my own perspectives about how life has changed, right? Obviously, firstly, it is the transition from being able-bodied to a person with a disability. My biggest challenge initially was to really accept my disability, and as well as my own body, because for very long you can't accept it. It's an unfair situation, and more than anything else, a question that runs through your mind is, why me? Because in no world are you able to explain why this has happened to you. We're always told that if you do good things happen to you. If you do bad things happen to you. So in the realm of all the things that I had done, I did not deserve this at all. And then from there, being independent, I've always been able to do what I wanted to do. And from there to going to a life where you're completely dependent on others. And additionally, you're also dealing with your own inner turmoil of being a burden on your own support system. It chips away at the very center of your being, and it takes away your confidence and any iota of self-love that you probably have. It took me a while to accept my disability, and even longer to accept my body. It takes you a while to realize that your body is only a vehicle for your existence while you continue to stay in the driver's seat. Running, I think, really absolutely helped me heal. It helped me to slay some of my demons. And there is, I think, something about a choice we make to push our bodies for hours on end that feels so much more secure than the uncontrollable, unplanned, and unconsensual pain that trauma leaves us with. My second part is about perceptions, right? About how you view yourself. That's one part of it. But there's also in terms of how the world perceives you. I've learned that the people first see your disability first and then see you much later on. I've learned also that you become very invisible when you're in a wheelchair, right? The only time I ever use wheelchairs is while I'm in the airport. And you would find that most of the security and immigration officers will talk to the person behind you, ask you about where you're traveling, about what happened to me, while I'm exactly sitting right there. They kind of forget that being in a wheelchair does not mean that you cannot speak. Surprisingly, that's the way the world works. And then, of course, there's a lot of staring, right? Like, I think the constitutional right, it's not written in our constitution, but it's definitely enshrined in every one of us, the right to stay. People never they never let you forget that you're atypical, and you're constantly made to feel that you don't belong in public spaces. Being a Blade Runner helps because it moves the narrative from being helpless to actually being in charge of your life, and to some extent, being in the face of people. It anchors disability exactly where it belongs, out in the open. And I've learned that you never underestimate the power of being seen. My third one is about privileges. I go for a lot of these competitions where I run with a lot of other women across India. And most of the time, I'm always running with women who have congenital deformities. They're born with all of the disabilities they have. And during all our discussions, the thing they always tell me is that, you have it tougher because we were born with it. And I've always struggled with the question, is it better to be born with a disability or to acquire one later on? I don't even know if acquire is the correct word, but we'll stick with that. And I think the answer to that really comes, for me, I feel, is in terms of the privileges, right? If you're poor or you're marginalized, then neither works. But if you're privileged, either of it works. It's helped me. My privileges have absolutely helped me because, I've been able to have the education that I wanted. I've been able to go to school. I've had friends. I've had a job. I've had a corporate life. I've not been discriminated against. It made me a very well-rounded person. If I was Shalini that grew up in a remote village in India, I think my story would have been very different. I also think that the formative years are what makes you as a person, right? It's what defines you as a person. And one of the things as children that we really do that helps us make friends is always in your playground where you can play with people. And today when I'm at the stadium, we have weekly once or twice where we play games. And I'm never part of those games because, they're playing 10 pass, they're playing volleyball, they're playing any one of those things. And I always sit down there and think that if I was much younger, by default, it would have meant that I wouldn't have that opportunity to really make friends and play with them, which I think would have really affected the way that I grew up. So privilege is one, definitely play a large role in our lives. And then I'm going to talk to you about what I really miss the most, right? Like I've always enjoyed driving. There was something empowering of just getting in a car, playing loud music and being able to drive. I can't do that. I mean, I do it today very illegally. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that out loud, but I drive illegally, and my point is that I hope and pray that I don't get caught with the cops, or even worse, that I'm not in an accident. But the point I'm trying to make is that our systems are fundamentally positioned to not help us, but rather to work against us. It's really tough getting a license as a person with a disability, right? I miss just being able to go off to the movies or go for a concert or just being able to travel without having to think about accessibility. Most places I've learned are designed often, but mostly by default, to exclude us. I do of course step out a lot, but I only step out because of the sheer determination of the people that are around me, and not because the system allows me to do it. Of course, while those are the larger things, I miss most of the smaller things as well, right? You miss walking on grass. You miss having to feel the sand under your feet on the beach. You miss the feeling of the sand dragging away when you're in the water, when the waves comes in and takes the sand away. You miss holding hands. You miss being able to hold someone's face. You really miss being able to kill a mosquito, right? Like, honestly, that's like the most frustrating thing you can, because you can hear the damn thing in your ear, and you can't. And of course, the other thing that you all will never know is the power of being able to scratch yourself when you have an itch. Remember that no other person in the world gets the spot right or the intensity right. Never. And that is something that I absolutely miss. And then, of course, the other point is about, I'm at an intersectionality of both the gender as well as the disability. And then, of course, patriarchy, right? When you're disabled, somehow, when you're a woman with a disability, you are deemed more helpless than a man with a disability. Because you're, oh, poor woman, what are you going to do with your life? Or I'm told that, oh, you got married and you had a husband and then this happened to you, so, you're kind of lucky that way. I've discovered that, there's a huge patriarchal lens that comes through. I know that, a lot of people go through the whole idea of asking me questions about what happened, how it happened, etc. And a lot of times, the first questions that's asked to me is, oh, so you don't cook for your husband or your family? And I'm like, dude, like, I can't eat my own self, right? Like, forget about cooking for somebody else. But the larger point being about how I am unable to look after my husband and family, and therefore by that nature, my husband's needs are not probably being met and fulfilled. The other part as well is about the exalted status my husband gets of just being in the marriage, right? And I always feel that, like when I'm out in these sessions sometimes, and I travel with my husband, and there are other people with disabilities who are men who travel with their wives. I by default see that my husband would get a lot more of the kudos than the woman who's there, because here's a guy who did not leave the woman, but the woman having stayed in the marriage post the disability is her duty to the husband. So it's a very nuanced way to look at things, and it kind of blows your mind sometimes. And then, of course, there's a lot of sympathy that comes along with it, right? And what I've learned is that sympathy is easy. It comes from a position of power. Empathy is going down in your knees, looking someone in their eyes, and thinking that what differentiates you and me is just a matter of luck, nothing else. And the day you're able to realize that, I think that becomes a game changer. While I've spoken all of the things that have not probably worked in my favor with disability, I'm also going to talk about, by design, how disability actually helps you in your life, right? One is you absolutely can get away from unnecessary meetings at work, right? You know there are these meetings that are absolutely zero value adds, and then there are the social gatherings that are part of the work that you don't want to be part of. Like, you don't like 9 out of the 10 people who you're supposed to go out for the outing with. So it's very convenient at that point in time to step away, use a disability, and say, really, my leg hurts, I can't be here today. And and nobody blinks an eye, and you can't really get away. You can really get away with that. The second is, it's a free pass getting out of any social dues in your family, relatives that you don't want to see, have any side of unnecessary conversations. Is absolutely beautiful. You get great, if you're someone who loves shopping, great recall value, right? Like, you walk into a store, people don't really forget me. And then when I go back the second time, they always will tell you what's on sale, what's not on sale, and it's generally a better experience for yourself. And then I think, flashing these hands kind of unnerves people a bit, and you can kind of milk that situation when you want. Like getting into a club when it's going to close, free drinks from the bar sometimes, tables at a restaurant because waiters really don't know how to say, no, there's no table for you. So, this kind of helps. You save a lot of money with not having to do your nails, pedicures, manicures. You don't really have to think about shaving your legs if you're wearing a skirt. Life's beautiful that way. And then, of course, airport queues, right? I mean, you human beings will stand in the queue while I whiz past you. Immigration is great. You never have to wait. I love it when I go with my friends, and then there's my queue, and then that's their queue, and then I just say bye and I walk. It's absolutely beautiful. So, and I think the most beautiful thing as well about this is just the random kindness that you get from strangers. It opens your heart to a lot of love, and you just figure out that it's okay, and the world is really not so bad. I'm going to leave you all with the last thought in terms of, why does disability really come into this world? If you think about it, it's always survival of the fittest. The nature's always taught us that. So why doesn't nature just eliminate us? Because that would have been the right way to do it. In some Buddhist cultures, I've been told that if you're born with a disability, it's because of your previous karma. And if you've and they go a step further and say that if you actually help someone with a disability, you're messing not just with their karma, but even your own karma, right? Because you're not letting them suffer as they should, because they're paying a price for it. I don't know about this room. I'm just assuming that all of my friends have some really bad karma coming up in their next lives. But coming back to why disability comes, I believe the world works on yin-yang, right? Maybe disability comes into the world to restore balance, to demand we become more human, to reach our full potential, and to include embracing our differences as well. Disability is here to remind you to be kind without a purpose. And I'm going to leave you with that thought today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shalini, for sharing your inspirational journey with us. Another big hand of applause for her, please. I can think of no better note to end our conference on. As we come to the end of today's events, we want to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for making this event possible.
Your presence and your commitment to designing for diversity, equity, and inclusion is what will make all the difference.
To our gracious sponsors, speakers, panelists, sign language interpreters, and to the event management company Colors 360, your support, your dedication, and your courage in sharing your truths to foster a more inclusive society is truly inspiring. Thank you.
Today we have sparked conversations, challenged perspectives, and planted seeds of inclusive change. But our work doesn't end here.
Let's carry the spirit of this conference forward. Let's design for and include everyone. Continue to amplify marginalized voices, dismantle systemic barriers, and create spaces where everyone feels seen, heard, supported, and valued.
With each step we take together, we bring our vision of truly diverse, equitable, and inclusive organizations closer to reality.
Goodbye for now, but let's not forget the impact we can continue to make. Until we meet again, let's keep shining our light and spreading the message of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Take care, everyone. We hope you have a very pleasant evening and weekend ahead.
Thank you so much and
Thank
have
you
a great
so much.
weekend ahead.
Thank you.
you.